63 Tombs in Egypt's Valley of the Kings, Part 1. The Valley of the Kings currently lists tombs from KV1 to KV63, not all of which are Pharaoh's tombs. They also include tombs of princes, princesses, high-ranking officials, burial pits, and what appear to be embalming chambers. The earliest royal tombs date back to the 18th dynasty. Most scholars consider Thutmose I as the first pharaoh buried in the valley, while the latest are around the 19th or 20th dynasty, Ramses X or 11th. Most visitors can only tour a small portion of these tombs. Many are unfinished, undecorated, or closed to the public for archaeological purposes. The Prologue and the Experiments. Welcome to the great place of truth. What you are stepping on right now is the dry limestone of the Theban West Bank. To tourists, this is a place to see mummies, but to us tomb keepers, it is a grand theatre. Before we begin climbing into those magnificent caves, I ask you to forget the name Tutankhamun. Truly, forget him for a moment, because this valley had been bustling for 300 years before that golden mask ever appeared. This place holds ambition, usurpations, a father's love for his daughter, and a grandson's resentment toward his grandmother. In these first 2 hours, we will see how this valley woke up. 1. Behind the scenes, KV63, the instrument room, next to the operating room. Footsteps stop, eyes point to an inconspicuous hole in the ground. Please look here. This is KV63, one of the most recent discoveries in the Valley of the Kings, brought back to light only in 2005. When it was found, the media went wild, thinking another royal tomb filled with treasure had been discovered. But when archaeologists opened it, there was no king and no golden coffin. What was inside? Only 7 wooden coffins and 28 large storage jars. Don't be disappointed, this is the most authentic story. Those jars were filled with natron, linen, broken pottery, and tools used for mummification. Scholars discovered these were embalming wastes from the era of Tutankhamun. You can imagine this place as the medical waste room next to a hospital operating theatre. Before the king could lie gloriously in his coffin, the bloody work of dehydrating his body, applying spices and removing organs produced stained cloths and excess salt. Because these materials had touched the sacred royal body, they could not be simply discarded and had to be buried with care. KV63 tells us that eternity is achieved through a tedious, even bloody, manufacturing process. This is the backstage of the Valley of the Kings. 2. The snake burrowing into the mountain. KV20. Obsession of father and daughter. Around 1500 BC, the founders of the 18th dynasty decided to hide away, rather than build conspicuous pyramids. Look at the deepest cliff wall, that is K520, likely the earliest royal tomb in the valley. It is not straight like later tombs. It winds like a startled snake, spiraling clockwise downwards. It was dug so deep that it even hit the groundwater level, showing that craftsmen were still experimenting with the single goal of keeping it hidden from grave robbers. This tomb housed 2 people, Thutmose I and his daughter, the famous female pharaoh Hatshepsut. This was a burial of high political tension. To prove her legitimacy as a female ruler, Hatshepsut expanded her father's tomb, or moved him there to emphasize that she would rest forever alongside him. This wasn't just filial piety, it was a political manifesto written in stone. 3. Family houses and tenants, KV39 and KV64. KV39 may belong to Amenhotep I, and its chaotic structure suggests it was added onto and renovated over different periods, much like an old family home that grows over time. KV64, a small rock tomb, shows the reality of reuse in the valley. Originally belonging to someone in the 18th dynasty, it was later occupied centuries later by a priestess named Nehemes Bastet. To later generations, even using an old house in this sacred valley was an honor. Movement 2. The Golden Age and the Shadow of Heresy. 4. The Warrior's Theology Classroom. KV34, Thutmose III. KV34 belongs to Thutmose III, known as the Napoleon of ancient Egypt. Though he was a hardened warrior, his tomb is not filled with scenes of war, but looks like a professor's lecture hall. The burial chamber is oval-shaped, representing a cartouche, the rope loop enclosing a king's name, meaning he was protected by his name even in death. The walls are painted to resemble aged yellow papyrus, covered in black-lined figures we call stick figures. This is the oldest and most complete version of the Amduat, the book of what is in the netherworld. This warrior king chose to be a humble student in the face of death, copying the secret passwords onto the walls to ensure safe passage through the night. It is a theological laboratory. 5. Moving Grandpa to a New Home, KV38, A Grandson's Revenge. After Hatshepsut died, her successor Thutmose III moved his grandfather Thutmose I out of the snake hole of KV20 and into the more modern KV38. By doing this, he declared to the world, "I am the true heir of Thutmose I, not that woman." The relocation of the dead is often a political performance by the living. 6. From Chaos to Standard, KV42 and KV43, the textbook era. By the mid-18th dynasty, tomb design reached a mature period. KV43 established the standard dogleg structure, a slope leading to a well chamber for flood and theft protection, a turn, a pillared hall, and finally the burial chamber. The architecture and wall paintings became standardized SOPs. 7. The Lonely Giant of the West Valley, WV22, Amenhotep III. WV22 belongs to Amenhotep III, the Sun King, during whose reign Egypt was incredibly wealthy. He chose to build in the secluded West Valley rather than the crowded main valley. It is the largest royal tomb in the West Valley, featuring grand 6-pillared chambers. However, his peace was short-lived. Later priests moved his mummy to the collective ward of KV35 to protect it, leaving this grand mansion empty, a testament to the cycle of prosperity and decline. 8. Tutankhamun's ancestors, KV46, Yuya and Thuya. KV46 belongs to the parents of Queen Tiye, the in-laws of Amenhotep III. It was a great honor for non-royals to be buried in the valley. Though the tomb itself was plain, it was found completely intact in 1905, filled with gold masks, chariots, and exquisite furniture. This served as a preview for the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb. Without these items as a reference, archaeologists wouldn't have known the function of many objects found later. 9. The Smallest House, the Loudest Voice, KV62, Tutankhamun, Footsteps, Noise of Crowds. KV62 is a story of accidents. Because Tutankhamun died suddenly at age 18 or 19, he was buried in a small, cramped tomb, originally intended for a non-royal. Yet because it was so small and inconspicuous, it was covered by the debris of later construction, hiding it from robbers for 3,000 years. When Howard Carter opened it in 1922, he found over 5,000 treasures squeezed into 4 tiny rooms. This is the ultimate case of the smallest house having the most furniture. Sometimes, being forgotten is the best way to be preserved. Movement 3. Transition and the Rise of the Ramesside Era. 10. The Man Who Cleaned Up the Mess. WV23. After Tutankhamun, the elderly official took the throne. His tomb, WV23, uses a straight axis design, a lingering influence of the heretical Amarna period. It contains a rare scene of the king hunting birds and fish in a marsh, a motif usually reserved for nobles, hinting that deep down, still saw himself as an official enjoying life. 11. The General's Iron Fist, KV57, Horemheb, a former general, fully straightened the tomb axis, symbolizing that the path to the underworld was now a direct, open road. He introduced the Book of Gates, where the underworld is a series of checkpoints with guardians, a soldier's view of the afterlife. His tomb also transitioned to painted reliefs, giving figures a 3D effect. Labyrinth of Princes, KV5, the sons of Ramses II. KV5 was long thought to be a small pit until 1995, when it was revealed to be a massive underground labyrinth with over 100 rooms. It served as a collective dormitory for the many sons of Ramses II, a display of the dynasty's immense power through sheer scale. Analogy for understanding. Think of the Valley of the Kings not as a cemetery, but as a historical hard drive. While the files, the treasures, were often deleted or moved by hackers, grave robbers, the system administrators, the priests, managed to save the core data, the mummies, by moving them to a secure folder, KV35, allowing us to reboot their stories thousands of years later.